Hi, everyone. Welcome to Before the BFP. I'm your host, Hafsa, and today we have on Chloe. Hi, Chloe. Welcome to the show.
Hello there. I'm really happy to be on. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Thanks for coming
Chloe.
on.
I'm 33. I currently live in Australia. You'll probably notice a slight British accent. I did live in the UK. I was born and bred in the UK. I've been in Australia now for the last nearly 10 years. I have a beautiful fur family. So I have two dogs and a cat who's actually behind me.
Yeah,
And yeah, we've been trying to conceive now for the last close to 3 years now, which has been pretty much a long journey for me. But yeah, I love to read in my spare time, and yeah, we're here just to talk about my journey with everyone and share it, so we're not alone in this community.
I love it. And also, your cat is very well behaved. Yeah. Chloe, do you want to jump into your story?
Yes, of course. So I got married in September 2022. As much like all the other people, we decided kids were something that we really wanted in our future. I guess actually throughout our relationship, it was always something that we spoke about often. Neither of us were 100% certain that we wanted children. And it was something we always discussed and said, maybe one day, who knows, we'll see how we feel. A month or two before the wedding, we had a little pregnancy scare in which my period didn't come and it was like clockwork. And we did a test and there was a faint line. And the emotion of both of us was excitement and not dread. And I think that's really telling of how you obviously want your future to be. Unfortunately, either was a faulty test or now know that it possibly was a chemical pregnancy. And my period came a few days later and we just, thought, oh, well, let's go ahead with the wedding and we'll see what happens after. We'll definitely, stop trying after the wedding. And that really cemented that we wanted to have children. I think sometimes something shows you and you kind of know your direction from that one like little telling path. And that was the kind of moment that we were both like, okay, we both wanted it. It was really poor timing, yet our only feelings were excitement. So
Yeah.
yes, we had our wedding, and as soon as the wedding was finished, we stopped all contraception and started trying for a baby. And within 3 months, I had another positive pregnancy test. Again, super excited. I guess in my head, I had all these planned things that I would do to show my husband that we were pregnant, and had all these amazing, as everyone does, scenarios of what you will do to show them and tell them. It didn't really work out like that. I was so shocked. I just ran out with the test and showed him the test, and obviously very excited from that moment. We went to my sister's that night and we told my sister, who was also pregnant at the time, and we were both just really excited to be pregnant together. 5 days later, that pregnancy test was no longer positive, and we were having another, what we now know is a chemical pregnancy. My period came, and I guess at that point, I was disappointed, but it wasn't super beside myself. Like there was disappointment. There was, we've planned this whole weekend of, how we're going to tell people and when it's going to be due and being pregnant with my sister and having cousins so close together. And obviously that was all gone. But it was disappointment, but it wasn't super sad. Like I didn't have a grief period going through that. And then I guess in the back of my head, I'm quite a positive person. I was like, it will happen again. Like it will happen again. It will stick. It's okay. Like we'll get through this and we'll have a baby really soon. And when it didn't happen again really quickly afterwards, that's when I started, I guess, spiraling, seeking what is happening, what's going on with my body, tracking ovulation. Are we getting it on the right days? Saw a whole heap of doctors who didn't really want to help. And they were like, well, you're in your 30s, you have a 28-day cycle, you're obviously ovulating. And I'm like, am I though? Just because I have a 28-day cycle and I'm having a bleed doesn't mean that there's an egg being released. I wanted to have my progesterone checked and nobody wanted to do that. There was a real push for me to even get a day 21 progesterone check. They were all just like, you're obviously ovulating. And I wasn't exactly happy with that because I knew that that just wasn't the case. That, you can have all these things and still not be ovulating. And so I ran one myself, found out quite quickly that I was ovulating, and which obviously is great news. But started thinking, well, where's a pregnancy? Like, what's happening then? We've already had potentially two losses quite early and nothing's happening. We got to the November of that year, so just over a year of trying, and then we had another chemical, and that one was really quick. Again, I didn't really get my hopes up. Kind of, I guess when you've already had two, you kind of think when you see a positive test, it doesn't mean, it's gonna happen. I guess at that point, I kind of knew in my head something was wrong. I started seeing naturopaths, I started acupuncture, I started trying to seek help, and I finally found a doctor who listened to me, who fully was like, let's run a whole hormone panel, let's see what's happening. There was no judgment. I remember seeing people and saying, oh, I've had a positive test, and then it wasn't, and they just roll their eyes. They almost just think that didn't happen. You're lying, or you didn't see
Yeah.
that. There's a lot of that, and I think there's a lot of judgment, not only in outside of this community, but also in healthcare, which, people are trying to seek help. And I felt judged. I felt seeing people when them pretty much just being like, oh, well, you have a period, so you ovulate. I just felt like I was stupid, like stupid for caring and wanting it so bad that I was pushing it and pushing it, which I think we all go through. We all go through that part of really advocating for ourselves, and we don't always get the other person advocating for us. And that causes a huge amount of stress. And I felt like I was, this was my life. Like, this is all I thought about, every waking hour is all I researched. And until I found this doctor who I stepped in and I just said, I just want a referral for fertility clinic. I just want to see a specialist. I'm not getting help anywhere else. I just want to see someone. And she was like, no one's run any hormone bloods on you. I can't refer you. Like, I can't do that without doing my job. And nobody before me has done their job. So please let me run a full hormone panel. I will send you away today with a fertility specialist referral, but I also want to do what I can. And I just sat there and cried. I was like, where have you been? Like, all this
Yeah.
time, where have you
This was a
been?
year in.
A year
This was
in,
a
and
year
I'd
in.
seen three
Yeah.
or four doctors and multiple times. Nobody wanted to do anything. And yeah, a year in, and she just was like, where are your hormone bloods? What do you mean you've been coming to the doctors and saying what's happening, and no one's even said, here's a referral to go and get bloods? She was like, it's as simple as that. Like, we could find something really quick and really easy without you going to see a specialist, and no one's even, tried. So she sent me away for bloods. They all came back great. So she was like, yep, go and see the specialist. There's not really much else we can do from here. You're obviously ovulating, your hormones are all a good level. Go and get specialist help. So in the February, the year after I went and sought out my fertility specialist, who I'm still seeing now. And I knew what I wanted. I'd done enough research. I did lots of research on who I wanted to see. I wanted someone really open and investigative, because at that point, obviously, I was unexplained. There was nothing telling me what was happening. So I knew what I wanted. I wanted to go in. I wanted a high cozy. I wanted an ultrasound. I wanted a pelvic examination. I wanted a semen analysis. We went in there, and she did exactly what I wanted. I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to push. She just was like, okay, these are the next things that I think we should do. And I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted. So I was straight away like, okay, this person's working for me, and I can kind of leave a little bit of this journey with them and continue to try and live my life without doing all the work and thinking about it, because this lady clearly knows what she's doing. So we did that, everything again, totally fine. I was borderline PCOS. I've never been given a full diagnosis, but I know my antral follicle count was 20 on each side, which is
Yeah.
very
I
borderline,
just
but
went through that.
all my
Yeah.
hormones are fine. So and my adrenals are slightly high, but they're all just like, we can't really diagnose you unless you have a few of the things, but they were like, really, you probably have PCOS, which is fine. Like, I don't need a diagnosis. There's not really much you can do even with a
Yeah.
diagnosis. So I kind of just treat myself like I have it and try and, avoid foods. And I've done like a glucose monitor to see what triggers my glucose. So I can try and eat foods that don't trigger it. But yeah, even when we did, so after that, we spoke about doing a lap, like at that time, like a laparoscopy. And I didn't have any signs or symptoms of any endometriosis or endometriitis or anything else going on. So we decided we didn't really want to do an intensive surgery at that point. we decided we'd just go down to IVF, obviously still very invasive, but, we didn't have any symptoms of anything else. So we decided IVF was probably our next route, and just to see if we could just fall pregnant with IVF. Or my other theory was maybe we weren't able to fertilize. Maybe there was something happening in the fertilization process. And we'd obviously be able to rule out a whole heap of things by doing IVF, like egg quality, sperm quality, whether they were fertilizing. So we did our first round of IVF in September 2024, so 2 years after we first started trying. 2 years and potentially 3 chemical pregnancies later, we did our first round of IVF. We got 22 eggs, which was obviously a
That's good.
great number. We were really, really
Yeah.
shocked and really happy. From those 22, we had 7 embryos, one of which was too poor quality to freeze, so we froze 6, which again, really happy with on a first cycle. We just didn't expect it. So at that point, we were like, okay, it's not egg quality, it's not sperm quality, it's not fertilization. Let's try and have a frozen embryo transfer and see what happens. So in October that year, we did our first frozen embryo transfer, which was failed. And we then did another one in November straight away afterwards. That also failed. And at that point, I was like, it's implantation. We can now rule all of these things out. And we now
Uh-huh.
know that, the chances are the reason it's not happening is implantation.
Yep.
So I said, I want to have December off. It's Christmas. Let me just enjoy Christmas and we'll get back into everything in January. And we did a biopsy in that December as I was having some time off, to test for, so we did the Emma and Alice biopsy to see the
Sorry.
microbiome of the uterus.
Okay, okay.
Um,
I was going to ask
just,
what that
yeah.
was.
Yeah, so it's basically the microflora of the uterus. It tests for endometriosis and any bacteria that are present that shouldn't be present, and also your good bacteria levels. All of those things can hinder implantation. At that time, we also did natural killer cell testing of my uterus just to see how many natural killer cells are present. So we did that 7 days after ovulation. We did both of those biopsies. And then in January, 4 weeks later, the Emma and Alice biopsy came back amazing. I had no bad bacteria and my good bacteria was at a really good level. So we weren't concerned about that. But my natural killer cells, which should have been between 4 and 6% at that time in my cycle, were 33%. So a huge amount of natural killer cells. So we straight away was like, okay, that's got to be causing this implantation failure. My cells are just killing these embryos. At that point, I started to see a reproductive immunologist. I didn't want to I know obviously fertility specialists are amazing, but they also have only studied in a particular field. I wanted to see someone that had specialist knowledge into that immunity side of fertility. So I started to see a doctor called Dr. in Sydney,
Okay.
and he was incredible, just incredible. He straight away looked at my numbers and was like, yep, let's run you for a full immunity blood test. And then 4 weeks later, he called me and he said, yeah, your immunity is overactive. He was like, when was the last time you were sick? And I was like, maybe 3 years ago. And he was like, yeah, okay, this is explaining a lot. You have a really overactive immunity. Your natural killer cells are really high. I want to put you on the Bondi protocol, so the full immune protocol. So I was on steroids, Clexane, and I was really like, yep, let's do it. Let's do another transfer on this protocol and see what can happen. So we did the full protocol with intralipids, did another transfer, and it was another unsuccessful transfer. And I just wasn't ready at that point. I think seeing it from an outside and seeing people go through, failures, you just assume in your head, well, I know I did. I just assumed it was like having a negative pregnancy test at the end of a cycle. That happened to me many months. I'd seen so many negative tests. I just assumed, oh, it just won't be any different. But it's so different. It's like the grief that comes with what could have been. You've put something inside that has like a 60% chance of working, and it doesn't work, and you almost just feel like a huge loss. Like you've lost those cells, you can't get them back. That could have been a baby and it wasn't. And yeah, it's a huge grief spiral that you go through. And I almost feel like sometimes, I know for my first 2, I almost was like, why do I feel like this? Like, this is wrong. I don't deserve to feel like this. I didn't have a loss. I feel like I'm having a loss, but I didn't have a loss. And I almost felt guilty for feeling like really emotional and really sad. about something that, wasn't anything, but it was something. And I guess trying to get myself out of that spiral and just be like, you're allowed to feel whatever you want to feel, like it's okay. And just allowing myself time. Like I would always like, I know our fertility specialist was like, let's jump into another one. And I'd always be like, yeah, let's go. And at this point I was like, no, like actually, no, I don't want to. I don't have capacity to just keep doing things and having this outcome. I know, yes, that
Every
maybe
time.
the next one would be a different outcome, but what if it isn't? I'm not at the point where I can deal with that again. So we took 3 months break. And I decided I wanted to keep investigating. I was like, I'm not fully certain that we found everything. At that point, I was like, let's do this laparoscopy. Let's get in there and have a look. We're at the point now where I can't keep doing and using embryos without knowing the whole picture. So my fertility specialist was amazing. She wanted to push us to a fourth. And as soon as I was like, I just can't, I'm not there, but I'm also not ready to take time off fully. I want to keep investigating. And she was like, let's do that. So we did the lap in June, and that came back. She spoke to me as soon as it was finished, and she told me that I had severe inflammation in my pelvis. She wasn't sure why. She couldn't remove it, but she didn't see any signs of any endometriosis while she was in there. And then she said she scraped both sides of my uterus to take a biopsy to see what was happening. And she said there was little like white lesions, but she couldn't really see what they were. So she took some of those away and had them biopsied. And then one side came back confirmed endometriosis and the other side was nothing. So from
Wow.
that, she confirmed that I had microscopic endometriosis. So you just can't see it with the eye, but it's there. And she believes that's what's causing the inflammation. And so we decided to do 3 months of down regulation, which is Zoladex. So 3 months, just reducing the estrogen to stop the endometrius from growing and then reduce that inflammation to help make a better uterine environment. I was fully on board with that because again, I was like, we've got another piece of the puzzle. Let's treat that. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. At the same time, I spoke to the reproductive immunologist and he said, yeah, let's keep testing you. So he then tested me and my partner for the DQ alpha gene, which is a gene that everyone has, and they get some parts of the gene from their mum and some parts from their dad. Normally, you have completely different genes, so your genes are exactly completely different. You're only a 25% chance to have a match, even with a sibling. If
Wow.
it's someone outside of your immediate family, so your siblings, you have a less than 1% chance of having any sort of a match. And we came back as a complete match, so our
That's
numbers are
crazy.
exactly the same. I
That's
remember
so
opening
strange.
the tests because they got sent to us, and I remember opening them, and I was like, "Oh, I've opened the same one twice because they were
Yeah.
just the same." And I checked the names, and I was like, "Oh, they're the same. Like, what does this mean? Why are they the same?" And then as soon as I Googled it, and it was like, "It's not good. You don't want to be a match." So I was like, "Okay, great. This is another
You're
thing that I've
unique.
now added to the long list of things that we keep finding." So instead of the endometriosis causing the natural killer cells, I truly believe it's this match that is causing the natural killer cells and my high immunity. Essentially, every time that me and my partner are either doing a transfer or falling pregnant naturally, my body sees that embryo as a ball of only my cells. And because our immunity gene is so similar, it's seeing that the ball of embryo is just basically a cancer, and my
Yeah.
body is attacking it. So it's creating those natural killer cells to attack this embryo every single time. And the chances of falling pregnant naturally is under 1%. So it's really, really rare to fall pregnant and also keep that pregnancy without doing all these specialist things. So I guess we spoke to our reproductive immunologist and he told us we have a good chance. We just have to follow some pretty severe and intensive immune protocols. Because I was fully like at that point, do we have to use donor embryos? Do we have to use donor sperm? Do we have to use a surrogate? Like, what are our choices? And he was like, look, some people it won't work, and that eventually could be the answer. He was like, but there are a lot of my patients who have this, and do my protocol and do fall pregnant and have a healthy baby at the end of it. So he was like, it's completely up to you. It's, money, it's intensive, but it's, what do you want to do? And I was like, I feel like we would always have that what if in the back of our head if we don't continue to try. Like we've tried all this so far. We've wasted we spent all this time and all this effort to get to this answer, and we're finally here. We kind of have to try. So we are in that process now. So I'm still on Zoladex for the next, I've got one more month of it in September. And then we also have LIT in September and October. So essentially that is me and my partner will go to Sydney for the day. He has 8 vials of his blood taken. In the lab there, they'll wash out all the white blood cells from his blood. I think science is just incredible in all of these things. Like,
Yeah.
thank God for science. Where would we be without it?
Yeah.
And then on the same day, they will then inject 8 needles of his white blood cells into me. So to hope that my body then starts to see that embryo as being different to myself. After 2 rounds of that, we can then go into an intensive Lola immune protocol, which essentially is just a stronger steroid, stronger immune suppressants, and also anti-inflammatories, and then the Claxane and intralipids on top of that as well. And then we will do another transfer at the end of this year after we've gone through all of those protocols and therapies. And I hope that this, helps my immune system to stop attacking the embryos and seeing them as maternal instead of just cancer, I guess.
Wow. That's a lot. I I'm glad you guys, well, I hope this is the end. Like, this is the answer. I hope there's no further to dig after
I
this.
know. And I feel like you just never know. That's the thing with any of this. You have an answer and you almost hope that that's it, that is the
Yeah.
answer that's you're going to try and fix, and then that will bring a baby in. But it's just, I don't know whether your body's forever changing, which it could be. But yeah, I don't know whether we obviously have always had this gene and we have fallen pregnant, but essentially my body's just every single time. And that's why my body's just in overdrive and it's severely inflamed and it's just not happy. And I said to my partner, like, this is it. Like, we can never try naturally. We just have to have IVF and these protocols because it's affecting my body in such a negative way. It's not great. Like, obviously it's great to never be sick, but it's not great why I'm never sick. Like, my body's obviously in fight. It's like stress. My body would be under extreme stress, thinking, potentially every few months got cancer and it's going to have to try and attack and kill it. It's not a great way for my body to be.
No. Have you ever thought of this? I've thought of this, but
Mhm.
you've fallen pregnant 3 times that you know of. Have you ever considered that you've been pregnant more times and you just never knew?
I have. I definitely don't think we have. I mean, we definitely could have, but I've been off the pill for many, many years, and I've always been quite strict with contraception. We have to use it because I know of so many people that, do different methods that isn't, a condom, and it just doesn't, it's not fail safe. Whereas I'm like
Yeah.
in my head, a condom is pretty fail safe. Not all the time, but it's probably the better
Yeah.
option rather than, like testing BBT and avoiding those times in your cycle. We all know ovulation changes from
Human
cycle to
error.
cycle.
Yeah.
It's not always completely accurate. Yeah, I just couldn't ever do that. We're not ready. I definitely want to be in a place where we're ready. We're really safe. But obviously I know, it's not 100% fail safe. And I know on paper, which is wild to even think about, but on paper we look highly fertile. I just think potentially, like, we know obviously before the wedding that it probably did happen. Um, and yeah, we know obviously the other 2 times. I was a pretty avid tester. I can't not test. And sometimes there's been a few where I'm like, oh, it was just an indent because it's not there today. Potentially there might be others where there has been HCG and, I've just been in my head, oh, well, it's not there today, so it wasn't there yesterday. But yeah, potentially there could be times. I know I have a whole heap of tests that I keep. I have a whole box full of just old tests, and I did a film recently for National Fertility Week, and I got all my tests out and did a reel, and even getting them out, I could see lines on a whole heap of these tests. And I was like, oh no, all indents. But even when I like shine a light behind it, it's not clear. And I was like, just don't even think. Don't even think about it. It didn't result in a baby. It will only bring you sadness if you start spiraling down that hole. Maybe I've been pregnant way more times than I think I have, and it just didn't work. But
Eh,
I definitely think obviously our chemicals were quite early on in the process. And I think my body's built up natural killer cells ongoing, and it's obviously got harder and harder to fall pregnant because the natural killer cells have been building and building because of obviously this DQ alpha match that we've got. I think, yeah, I think essentially we've just been finding it harder and harder as it goes along. But I think you almost have to protect your mental health. There's a real like thin line, I guess, between overthinking to negatively impact just your like hypotheticals, and it doesn't always help. And I know we all do it. We all spiral, we all
I do
overthink
it.
things, we all keep the tests and we have a look at it 12 hours later to see if it's different.
I have a story for that, actually. I have 2 stories. One, when I was pregnant with my son, after we did our treatments, I got pregnant, and 2 days later, so 10 DPO, I got pregnant, or I had my positive sign. 2 days later, I was bleeding because I was miscarrying
I'm
because my
sorry.
progesterone immediately dropped. But because I was at the fertility clinic, they were able to give me progesterone immediately and like stop it. I was really lucky. But that made me think like I'm not a tester. I've never tested before. I've always been like, like it'll if it happens, it happens. And I never tested that much because I just assumed it never happened. I never had any symptoms.
Yeah.
And then since then I was like, oh shoot, like I probably have been pregnant many times and I've never noticed it. 'Cause I'm not great with, like, either the birth control or the testing. And the second
Yeah.
thing is, you know how you're talking about indent lines and they're just indent lines? And you look at it, you get a negative test and you kinda toss it and don't look at it again? With my daughter, I took a test and it was negative and I was like, "F this shit," and I threw it. And then I came back the next day and it was, like, on the floor and I was like, "Well, I should throw it away," and I picked it up and it was positive and I was like, "What?" And so that did happen for me. Sorry, I
Yeah.
thought I
And
heard
I
my
think
daughter crying, but it was a fire truck.
it can definitely happen. Like, I know when obviously in those really early days, some people were like, don't look at it again. 'Cause sometimes it just takes a little while for that dye to appear because it's so early. There's not enough of it. Yeah, so I've fallen into that trap so many times, and I almost just think, just throw it away. If it's positive, it will be there tomorrow. And it's really hard to get, even when you're talking to yourself and saying that, it's really hard to actually do that.
Oh, it's so hard. I used to, test my trigger out just to make sure that
Yes,
I, like, left my
same.
system.
And
Yeah.
it's also
I've
like,
got
I think sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes in your head, it's almost nice to see the positive, even though you know it's your trigger. It's like a psychological thing that you're like, ah, this is what a positive test looks like.
this is what it feels like if you would get
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I totally get that. Another thing that I've noticed, you are my 2nd person that I've spoken with from Australia with a DQ alpha match, and it's
Wow. Yes,
very
I've met
yeah,
a lot of people in Australia with either partials or completes. And yeah, it seems, I didn't think it was, when I heard about it and I heard I had it, I thought it would be really difficult to find other people with it because it's so, rare. Maybe it's
yeah.
not as rare as we first thought.
I don't think it's rare, I think it's under tested. In the
Yeah.
US, I'm, like, hearing all your stories from people from Australia and abroad, and you guys go so deep, you're, like,
Uh,
checking so many things, and here, they're like, "Unexplained infertility, IVF. Oh, you can't get pregnant? Get a donor, get a surrogate." That's it. They
yeah.
do not go further.
Yeah.
We don't have. I don't think I've ever heard of a reproductive immunologist in the US.
Wow.
They're like, anyone listening to me, tell me I'm wrong, put it in the comments, message me. I really wanna
Yeah.
know, but I don't think so. I don't think in the US that I've heard of this. Like, in the
That's
US, they kind
crazy.
of there's, like, much limits.
It's pretty much the same in the UK. I know a lot of people in the UK that go through this travel. So they go to Europe, to Greece, in Athens. There's a clinic there, the Fertility clinic is there, who do all the reproductive immunology checks. So they do the natural killer cells, the cyclones, DQ alpha match testing. They do all of that there. So I know some people travel and pay a lot of money to get it done privately elsewhere. It's just crazy. I feel like I even said like this, nobody wants to be unexplained. Unexplained is like
Yeah.
one of the worst buckets to fall into because you're always, and I know for me, for years I was obviously unexplained and I would go through every day I would do something like drink a glass of wine or go for a run and my heart rate goes up. And in my head, I'd think, is this why? Was that one glass of wine why? Was my heart rate increasing too high and my body getting stressed from that? Why? Should I not be exercising? Should I not be drinking? And like little things, like sometimes I know I was in my kitchen and I bent over the side and I got my pelvis on the side of like the corner of the work surface. And I was like, that's why. And it's like, so like, you just know that that's not why. Like, you know that that's not a reason. One glass of wine is not going to do that when you're, in your cycle. Like, people get pregnant all the time who, are homeless, don't eat food. They don't eat the best food. They hardly eat, or they do alcohol all the time and they do drugs all the time. They get pregnant. So why am I thinking in my head that one glass of wine is the reason? But you just, there's so much like self-blame that comes with unexplained because you don't have that answer. So everything you do, you question. Is this the reason? Is this why? Because nobody else can find out why. Maybe it's something I'm doing that they have no idea I'm doing, or just like really silly things. So I think unexplained infertility is just really unhealthy, um, for the mental health. And I definitely always say to people when they're like, oh, I'm in my third round of IVF and I'm unexplained and it's still not working, what should I do? Keep testing. Keep pushing to advocate for yourself to keep testing because that once you get the diagnosis, yes, diagnoses come with their own stress. They come with their own mental challenges and they can bring, such almost like depression and anxiety and all of that with it. But I tell you, there will always, or like there will be on the side, a relief that comes with you finally have an answer. Like, even if that's, endometriosis, which is a chronic disease that you're now going to have to live with forever. And like, yes, mine's silent at this moment, but who knows what's going to happen in 5, 10 years? Who knows how it's going to affect me? It's always going to be there. There's nothing I can do about that. But there is this sense of relief that you can finally start doing things to hopefully bring home a baby in the right way rather than just guessing that it does bring that relief. And I think there's too many people and too many fertility specialists who just accept that as a diagnosis. And
Yeah.
it's not a diagnosis. It's not an answer.
No, I agree. I think, like you were saying, unexplained infertility is just it's not unexplained. There's an explanation. Someone's got to go and find it with you. And I think in the US, the issue is you can't go off and test yourself, and there's not many places that like do further testing. They're just like, let's do IVF. IVF is not a guarantee. Like they try and sell it to you like IVF is, oh, it's a 60%
No,
chance you're going to get pregnant. It's not a guarantee.
it's not. And if
So,
you don't fix
yeah.
the reason it's not happening, like us, like we did IVF, and because we didn't know what was happening and why it didn't work, you have to do certain things to get it to work. Forget it's not a guarantee. And even for people that have been pregnant and have had healthy babies, it doesn't always work for them either. Like it's the unknown. Like I wish there was something out there that was 100%, that would 100% give you your baby regardless. Because it is just it's a questioning game and an argument in your brain whether you're doing the right thing, whether it's just the what ifs, what if you don't do it, and what if you did do it. It's a constant battle between, what should we do? There's just no wrong or right answer, and people online trying to compare their journeys and being like, well, this
Yeah.
worked for me and this worked for me, and why didn't you just do this? Everyone's journey is so
Oh, why
different.
don't you just? Why don't you just? That's
Yeah.
always what it is. And especially from healthy people who've had babies easily without really trying. Why don't you just relax? Why don't you just not drink? Why don't you just go on vacation? Just have sex with your husband? No, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I agree. And the whole why don't you just do IVF needs to stop because there is no
Yeah.
just do IVF. Like people who haven't done it, or people even saying, I've done 6 rounds, you've only done one. Only done one? Like it doesn't, there is no only, there is no, everyone's got a different amount that they can take and a different amount that some people's IVF journeys might be really easy. You have no idea what someone else went through. So saying, why don't you just do another one? It's not just do another one. It's the whole, what you put your body through, what you put your mind through, the financial side that people don't want to talk
Your
about
bank
or
account
think
through.
about. But like, it's a thing. Like, it's a real thing. All that money, you have to think about that. You'd love to just be like, oh, well, it's a baby. It's worth it. But it's no guarantee that after spending all that money that you're gonna have the thing that you spent money on. You just
Yeah.
don't have that guarantee. And I think if you did, it might be easier. But yeah, the whole just do IVF, it needs to stop. Like it's a lot. And I feel like even when I was starting IVF and we watched all the videos, I was like, I can do that. That's actually not that difficult. But you forget it's not just the injections. It's the mental capacity of what, the hormones do to you. And you're always constantly thinking, what if this doesn't work? Because it doesn't always work. And like, we're here a cycle down and 3 transfers later, and it hasn't worked. So there's no just in infertility, and people do need to stop comparing or saying, oh, all these people went to the Maldives and then they came back pregnant. Maybe you should just go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah. Um, I I have never had to do IVF, but when we do IUIs, they always give us letrozole. I almost ran my husband over with a car because of how that, like, affected me. So I cannot imagine the meds that they give you and all the drugs that you have to take for IVF because that's just like a cocktail.
Mhm.
Absolutely cannot imagine. So it must be so much harder than just the letrozole, but
Yeah, I've also
yeah.
done letrozole, and that was a time. It was a time.
That was yeah. They don't warn you though.
Oh no, they just say, just take this medication to,
Yeah.
have bring on ovulation. And you think, okay.
Yeah.
And they
I
also, I
took
think
the
a whole part of it is, I remember researching letrozole and finding out what it's actually used for and being like, this
cancer.
is actually, yeah, this is crazy that they don't tell you those things. And even with some of the, like, I'm on Zoladex now, which obviously puts me into a chemical menopause state. So the side effects that you get with that are crazy. I'm lucky I haven't had too many, but I do have like really achy joints. I said I almost feel like I've woken up like 20 years older. Like my joints hurt. I take longer to recover from exercise. I have really extreme anxiety all the time, thinking about things that just don't matter, even things that have happened in the past. And I'm thinking about ways to change it. And I'm like, it's been and gone. Like leave for your
But
mind. But
yeah.
they tell you about all of those side effects, but then they don't tell you like long-term effects that you can get, like bone density and weaker muscles. I don't tell you any of that. Like you have to do your own research to like find out, what could happen long term. And I had to really be like, am I gonna stop ovulating? Like, is this it? What happens if I stop Zoladex and my body's like, hey, I want to be in menopause now? And my fertility specialist was like, no. Like she was like, yes, if you were in your 40s, I would be concerned. She was like, you're 33 and potentially got PCOS and your ovaries are like producing a huge number of follicles. I'm not concerned. And I even was like, okay, I'm going to go and run and see studies. And yeah, it's pretty slim chance of that happening.
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty rare case. But you do have to kind of consider that. You have to think about, all of these things have such a positive and they could, help in the long run. But also, what are they doing to my body? Because I'm always one of those people that are like, I don't want to take paracetamol. I've got a headache. I'll ride it out. I don't want to touch
Yeah.
medication unless I really need it. And now all of a sudden, I'm being pumped full of all these medications, and I'm like having to change my mindset of, it's okay. Like it's all for a good cause. But then it's like, but what if it doesn't work? And I, taken all these medications that have made me gain weight, and then dealing with that side of, you know, trying to understand and see yourself in a different light when you look in the mirror. And that's
Yeah.
really difficult. And I think that's one part that people don't talk about too often is the weight gain that comes from everything. Every single medication that you do for IVF or immune protocols, the side effect is weight gain. And it
I didn't
happens.
know that until I saw a TikTok talking about it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And I feel like not many people talk about it. And
No.
they just suffer in silence because it's okay to feel that way. Like we're allowed to feel upset and disappointed with, the way we look, but also it's not our fault. And
Yeah.
it does reduce once you're off it. But also I always just say, hopefully the outcome is the outcome that we want and it will all be worth it. And I can focus on weight loss further down the track once we've got what we want and we've got the goal. Weight is literally just a number. Like, who really cares about what number it says in your clothes or what number it says on the scale? we're not going to worry about that when we've got a baby in our arms. We're not going to think, you know. But I was like, it is a real aspect that I think some people would massively struggle mentally to, you know, gain all that weight and sit, because some people do gain a lot more weight than myself. I know I've been quite lucky, but even me, I'm like, I've gained 10 kilos in less than a year, and I haven't changed anything. That's just what's
Yeah.
happened. And I think that's a really hard part to come by, especially, you know, when there's so much,
Steroids do that.
and your face changes so much in steroids. Like the
Moon face,
whole
right?
puffy moon face. I look back at pictures and I'm like, did I really used to look like that? Because I don't look like
I
that anymore.
I sometimes think to myself, I wasted all my years when I wasn't as big as I am now thinking that I was huge. I blame all the high school bullies for that.
Yes. Yeah. I look back at
Yeah.
pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at me. And I would not have been happy with how I looked there.
No.
I think that's so upsetting to think about, because I'm like, I'm actually biggest I've ever been, but I'm also probably the happiest about the way I
Yeah.
look, because I know why, and I'm proud of myself for that. Like, I'm proud of everything that we've done and how much we've had to go through, and how we've just actually been quite positive about the whole experience. And I'm proud of that. Whereas before, obviously, I was eating, you know, hardly anything, and I was going to the gym all the time, but I was never happy. Whereas out now, I'm like, I have all these things that I actually feel good about myself, that it doesn't matter that I'm a different weight now and I look different. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my chest after breastfeeding. That it'll never be
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. And it's all for a good reason.
Yeah.
Be proud of them. They've done such a good job. Like, that's
Yes.
all
Yeah.
you can think of when you look like, and I think it's really important to try and empower yourself. Like, no one else is going to say that to you, or no one else is going to think that,
No.
but it's really important to be proud of your body and what it's achieved, and it's done so much for you. And I think, yeah, younger years when I didn't think that. I never thought that.
I never did either.
All I did is look in the mirror and think, why is my stomach so big? And now I think, oh, it's big for a reason. It's there protecting my reproductive organs. Like, that's where women do hold their fat. I now like
Yeah.
changed the mindset into seeing it for different reasons. You know, knowing that I've got scars from the exact same bruises on my stomach, and just thinking, proud of my body. It's done all this for me. It's gonna eventually one day be pregnant and carry a baby, and all of this will be worth it. Even at
That
this point, I'm
positive
like, everything I've done is worth it. The scars from the laparoscopy are worth it. I found out I had endometriosis, which I've been able to, you know, fix up my diet, and hopefully I'll be able to prevent symptoms earlier than they would have eventually come by improving diet and like reducing gluten and doing those things, because I know about it. And they're the things that I try and think about when I look in the mirror, rather than why don't I look like I did a year ago?
yeah. Our bodies are basically like tools at this point, to
Yeah,
help us achieve the outcomes that we want, and we should,
they are.
like, strengthen them and clean them and, like, exercise them to make sure that they stay strong, and it's less about
Yeah,
aesthetics, it's more about, like,
yeah,
being fit, and that
yeah,
positive affirmation
100%.
really helps.
It does. It does really help. And obviously it's not every day. Like every not every day I'm just positive, or I can think about these things. Some days I just take my clothes off and get in the shower and just refuse to look in the mirror and don't think about it, or refuse to wear jeans because they no longer do up. Like, some days I'm just like, no, let's not do that. And I am fully in my comfy girl era. Like, all my clothes are like leggings that are comfy around the house, are joggers, and I'm just like, no, like nothing restrictive on my stomach, because it's been through enough. It doesn't need to wear jeans and do all this, you
Yeah.
know, restrictive things that we used to do, because it's no longer comfortable, and that's okay.
Jean Yeah, jeans are so uncomfortable. Why are we being
Ooh,
gaslit into thinking jeans are
I
amazing? I
know.
don't
No,
understand.
no, and get to find a pair of jeans that I find comfortable.
I think there was one pair that fit me when I was pregnant, and it fit me, like, my first trimester, and then after that, I was
Yeah,
like, "What is this garbage?" And I don't think I've ever worn jeans before, and I haven't worn jeans after.
yeah.
Like, jeans are the
Don't blame you.
worst.
Do
Yeah,
not blame you.
leggings.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and they're trying to do away with leggings. Apparently, leggings are not, like, it anymore. I don't care. I will wear leggings till I die.
I will change that. Leggings are it.
Yeah. Um, Chloe, are there any resources that you wanna share with people that have helped you on your journey mentally, physically, emotionally, anything like that?
I definitely follow a whole heap of positive affirmation accounts so that when we're scrolling on Instagram, you get like the positive posts in between. You know, you could be seeing someone that you followed for a really long time having a negative transfer or having a negative test. And then, you know, underneath that, you get a positive affirmation that just changes your mindset. And I follow a lot of those so that it's kind of not all doom and gloom on the
Yeah.
fertility world.
Do.
I have met some incredible people in this community that have helped me through it and just, you know, made friends with them and follow their journeys and just rooting for each other and really just love following people who have been through such a shit show with their journeys and then finally get, you know, the end result that we all want. I follow a lot of those accounts. I don't really follow any sort of, I guess, like nutritional or those sorts of people. Like I did at the start, I did. And I thought changing my diet and all these things would get me there. But I guess I always knew in my head that there was something bigger going on. Even when I got the endometriosis diagnosis and I thought, oh no, potentially gluten's doing this. I was always still like, this isn't it. Like, this isn't the whole picture. It's not the reason I haven't got pregnant in 3 years cannot be because I've got microscopic endometriosis. It just can't. Like that doesn't feel right. And I know even talking to my fertility specialist, she was the same. So I do follow some naturopaths and I have seen lots of naturopaths that have helped me. And especially when I've had like vaginal microbiome tests come back and they aren't great. I've had a few naturopaths that I've worked with. I kind of like to work with a few. Same as like, you know, when you see a GP or specialists, they all have different knowledge and they've all seen different kind of people and studied different things. So I find sometimes if you see a few, it's not always the most
I
cost
do that too.
effective, but you end up, you know, you can pick and choose the parts of the information that you get from each of them that you feel works for you or resonates with you or fits into your lifestyle better because it's, you know, we can't do everything that these people tell us to do. It's just not healthy or
Or cost
doable
effective.
or cost effective. Like it's expensive and no one is gonna like when I saw my first naturopath and she was like, get rid of plastic Tupperwares, get rid of perfumes, get rid of anything down your skin that has all these chemicals in it, change all your towels, wash them and all this stuff. It was a whole list of things. And I walked away thinking, I don't know if I can do all this. Like one, replacing my towels, expensive. Two, changing all my like laundry detergents, all my makeup, all my skincare expensive. Changing all my
Yeah.
Tupperware overnight, like all of those things. I was like, if I was to sit down and do all of this today, it's like a $5,000 change. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
have the funds to spend on changing lifestyle like that. So I think they need to be really clear that it's okay to pick one thing and change that one thing and slowly change the other things. Like wait till
Yeah.
your skincare's run out and then change it. Wait till your laundry detergents run out and then change it. When your Tupperwares are getting ruined and you know you don't put them in the microwave, like change those things that you
Yeah.
can change quickly, change, and then all the other things that you know are bigger changes, do it 1 month at a time. Think this month I'm going to focus on this and then next month. And it's taken me a year to fully adapt that process of getting rid of those toxins out of my life. And I think it's really hard and really daunting for people, I guess, starting in their fertility journeys and having those conversations and thinking they have to do that overnight because people get pregnant all the time, not doing any of those things.
Yeah.
So it's really daunting. And I think one step at a time, let's make one change every now and then. Let's not tell all these people. And I guess those sorts of, I do unfollow accounts where I see naturopaths or like nutritionists post pages or just reels and it says all the things you shouldn't be doing. And it's like, well, actually, it's a bit extreme. Or all the things that you should do after a transfer. And it's like a whole list of like, drink the beetroot juice, have the pommy. And it's like, no, like surely after a transfer or in the 2 week wait, the number one thing that will help is to relax. And those
Yeah.
things that you've put on here, making us do every single day, is not going to help us relax. Thinking about all of those things that we have to do when we don't have to do those things. Like taking a hot bath, yeah, okay, probably not the best, but it's not awful. Like it's as long as you're not making it like 40 odd degrees, you can still have that bath. Like just
If it's
think
not
all
like
of those
Satan, I
pages.
can't if it's not like Satan's house,
Ah,
I can't be in it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I just think all of those things where they say like the things that you can and can't eat are just a lot. And I think a lot of people fall into that spiral of them feeling guilty if,
Yeah.
you go out for that tie when you're in your 2 week wait. And I just think it's not healthy. Like, yes, we all know what we should and shouldn't be doing and the right things to do, but we all know we shouldn't be eating McDonald's and we all do that anyway. So in a 2 week wait, let's just do what we can, and what we can is enough. And we shouldn't be feeling guilty. And I think sometimes those pages bring a little bit of that guilt and shame, and we shouldn't
Yeah.
be feeling that. It's like even when people are like, don't eat those Macca's fries after a transfer, even though it's superstitious and everyone does it, why can't we have something fun that's also nice to eat? Like, there's no harm in doing it, but yet all these, like, there's so many places out there that tend to like throw those like reels and just do's and don'ts, and it's almost like they're almost there to shame you a little bit when you do want to just, relax in the 2 week wait and do nothing. It's okay to do that. I just think that some of those accounts don't help.
They don't. I fell victim to one of those accounts, when I was trying to conceive my son. I, like, came across one of those, and I think I went crazy. I don't know if it was anxiety or what, but I was like, "Hump the Tupperware. This is going in the trash. We're buying 1,200 supplements. We
Yep.
gotta read it starts with the egg. You need to stop doing this. You can't do that. You're taking all these supplements." I went crazy, and it didn't help. It was COVID, so I was home alone going
Yeah.
crazy. But I should have unfollowed those accounts, so that's great advice. Since then, I've calmed down a
Yeah.
lot bit, actually. I've mellowed out a little bit, and it's if I run out of this skincare, I'll replace it with something better.
Yeah.
If I have this old thing that I've had forever and it works, it's staying until it breaks. "How do you let your children go in the chlorine pool?" And I'm like, "Well, how are they gonna have memories if they're not in the pool? Like, it's
Yeah. Like
okay."
there's a limit, right? Like, yeah, we want to, protect our children and make sure they're not touching all these chemicals, but also like they also have to live their
Yeah,
lives, and if that means swimming in a pool with their friends, it means swimming in a pool with their friends and having a fun time. There's only so much,
yeah,
and like I just think the whole like here in Australia, obviously skincare and sunscreen is such a huge thing that people do all the time, but I also just think, and I know if like coming from the UK to coming here, I've obviously got such fair skin, and it's like almost see-through. Like I can see all my veins. I never really tan. Like, and I remember one of my first ever hormone checks that I did, they also run vitamin D, and it was low. Like, and I was like, I live in like one of the hottest places in the world, and it's low because I constantly either wear sun cream, or I'm constantly covered up, or I'm inside because I'm too scared to go out in the sun. And it's
yeah,
all just fear mongering, where it's like, actually, vitamin D is really important. And if it's low, it can cause, depression, it can cause brittle bones. There's so many harsh things. There's a moderation. And I've learned that very quickly, that actually the sun isn't the devil. And it's okay to, go out in shorts and go for a 20-minute walk with no sun cream on, get that vitamin D. And I feel like it's probably the same in a lot of countries in terms of different aspects, and obviously what's, the most important in that country. Now, obviously skin cancer is real and it's a thing, but also there's no healthy skincare. Like all the sunscreen here is got some sort of highly toxic chemical in it. And I'm like, I don't want to
really.
smother myself in that anymore. Like, I'm trying to
Yeah,
find alternatives, and it's not that easy to find alternatives that are factor 50 and don't contain all of these chemicals, because I guess what there isn't anything else. They have to use those chemicals to be able to block the sun. But I found out very quickly that some days, now I can go outside for that half an hour walk in the sun, and it's okay. That little bit of sun isn't gonna I don't burn, and it's okay to do that. But I think a lot of it is fear mongering, and until I had my vitamin D, I just assumed it was high because I live in Australia, it's sunny here, and I always go out in the sun, but I didn't realize wearing sun cream and covering up, it doesn't work. Like you can't take it in and you hardly get it from any foods.
Brown girls are notorious for having low vitamin D and low iron. On top of it, I'm covered most of the time, like, you're gonna see my
Yeah,
arms or my hands or my face, but, like, mostly covered. So I try my vitamin D is super low, so all the time.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
have to supplement, but I've also started, like, the kids are always outside in the sun, and I kinda don't put sunscreen on them unless we went to Abu Dhabi, and I was like, "You're gonna burn here. We'll cover you up in sunscreen," or if we're, like, gonna be at the beach, but if it's a normal day, I don't put sunscreen on them.
No, and I think that's the way it should be. Like they don't need to be smothered all the time. Do that.
That's Chloe, where can people reach out to you if they wanna connect with you?
So I am on Instagram. I'm currently a little bit, I guess, anonymous on Instagram. I do have my name on there, but I haven't really posted anything of my face. I do hope to change that in the future. I think coming into it, I just wanted somewhere I could pull all of my fertility stuff from my actual page so I didn't see it constantly and have a place where it was all stored. So my Instagram is trying to conceive our rainbow. So it's trying to conceive dot rainbow underscore. Um, and I'd love to connect with everyone. I'm a really open book and happy to answer any and all questions, and support people on similar or completely different journeys. I know how much of a hard time it is. And yeah, I follow people in secondary infertility, and I really hate the stigma that comes with secondary infertility and some of the horrible things that people that are struggling for the first time say to those people. We don't know unless you've walked that path what they're going through. And I think any infertility is equally as bad as the other. When it comes to secondary, you're thinking about the gap and potentially never giving your child a sibling or multiple siblings. I just think, yeah, I think I follow anyone in any realms. I have no judgment, and I think we all deserve to have a community that supports us no matter what we're going through, whether that's recurrent loss, whether that's implantation failure, multiple rounds of IVF, unexplained infertility, or secondary infertility. I think we all deserve to have a place in this community and have people we can talk to and open up to.
Yeah, I agree. I really hope this podcast helps people find each other, find a place to tell their stories, whether it's already had a happy ending or it's on the way to one or any anywhere in between. So thank you, Chloe, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really like the idea of this podcast and having a place where people can talk about their journeys and also hopefully find people on similar paths to them that they can talk to, because I've really tried to find people at the same in similar positions to me to that I can talk to and have support.
That's amazing. Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you.